Okay, that's up. That's in there. That's there. Floor dog, check. Hi, floor dog. You wanna come up here? You wanna come up here? Come on. Let's go up here. Come on. Come on, monkey butt. Let's do it. Let's go up here. Come on, buddy. Come on, everyone wants to see you. Come on. Oh, he's gonna move the other side to the ottoman. Okay, she went to that side of the ottoman. All right. Hello, everybody. How you doing? It's Tuesday. Hope you had a nice little holiday break. That you got to have some time off from your labor and hang out with family and do all those things. Let's see what's happening in the news. Over the weekend, everyone thought Trump was dead. Lots of rumors going around that he ceased to be, but he had a press conference today. He's very much alive, although there are still questions. My personal thinking is that he probably had some sort of medical procedure, and that's why he had to dip out of the limelight for 6 days there. The longest he'd ever gone without being in front of a camera, a major press camera, was 1 day. 1 day during both his presidencies so far. He went 6 days without addressing the press. So that got people a lot of speculation up there. There's lots of talk about him having these little micro strokes that may take him out of the loop for a couple hours until the clock clears. He's not a healthy dude. I mean, he just eats McDonald's and drinks Diet Coke all day long, so it never exercises. So it's bound to be he's got some sort of medical procedure going on because he's got the little bruises on his hands from ultra intravenous use, likely from diuretics or other medications, blood work being done. So yeah, he's alive. He also, some people who weren't him were doing some definite tweets this weekend. They were coherent and used a large vocabulary. Was not a normal Donald Trump tweet. Maybe perhaps he's turning over a new leaf. He doesn't want to sound like the character Gavin Newsom is painting him to be. He also claimed that the U.S. has collected $8 trillion in tariffs. No, it has not. At most, it's been about maybe $500 billion, but probably not that much. On a good year, we only take in about $3 trillion in imported goods, so there's no way for us to have tariffed $8 trillion at an average tariff of 18% on that. The appeals court ruled that the tariffs are illegal. They didn't do anything about it, though, which is kind of frustrating. I think they're waiting for a Supreme Court ruling on the matter. If the Supreme Court rules the tariffs are illegal, which they are, because tariffs are outlined under Article 1 of the Constitution, which is congressional powers. The president does not have the power to arbitrarily start throwing taxes on things. But if the Supreme Court rules that it is in fact unconstitutional, then all that money, the hundreds of billions of dollars that Trump has collected, have to go back to those folks who pay the tariffs. There are some pretty clever bets going on that money is going to get returned. You have large investment banks, hedge funds, other firms. They're going out and they're buying futures on those returns. Basically, let's say you're a big company. You're a big company that imports lots of things. I don't know, you're a steel company or car manufacturer or Amazon or whatever. And you potentially could have billions of dollars in tariff money coming back. You might not get that money back. But what you can do is you can sell the rights to that return to somebody like Goldman Sachs. So Goldman Sachs might pay you a couple $100 million and be like, hey, we'll pay $200 million. If you get a return, we get all $4 billion back. And Amazon goes, all right, whatever, dude. It's money's money. And so there could be some huge payoffs for a lot of these investors if that's the case. It's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting bets. Weird little OTC things going on. What else? Beyond rang the bell as BBBY today. All the former BBBY Q bonds are now DK Butterfly bonds. Anything else on that front? I don't know. The U.S. Vaporized a speedboat off the coast of Venezuela, claiming it was a drug-running boat. It's a pretty small boat. They claim there are 11 people on it. The blown-up images don't look like there's 11 people on it, nor that the open hold boat could carry that much in drugs. But they shot it with a Reaper drone and just blew it out of the water. I think it's Julius and I were discussing it earlier. I think he's right that it's probably a warning shot to Maduro, to GTFO, that we're ramping up and it's time for him to go. So we're going to put some oil guy in charge of Venezuela, and we're going to start slurping up all their oil. We have the only oil refineries in the world that can process their really sulfur-rich oil. So it's very hard to process crude oil, and there's like 3 refineries on Earth that can process it, and they're all in Texas. So there's a lot of money to be stolen there. Monkey butt. Do you have anything else to add? Oh, GameStop went up a lot today. GME options. Yeah, GameStop went up a whole $1 today. Pretty wild. Implied volatility went up about 10% as a result, making some of these things. Yeah. So like those 23.5 options I was looking at last Friday that were 11 cents, they're now 39 cents. So they went up 254%. So some money was to be made. If you were an options buyer last Friday, good for you. I probably should have done that, but I saved my ammo for this Friday. But now if implied volatility is going up like this, I might not get the wins that I want. So let's see what the price is for the 12th. Yeah, the prices are up about 50% on everything for next week. Maybe we'll even it out. Maybe we'll slow down a little bit and implied volatility will drop once more. But implied volatility for next week shot up from about 40% to almost 90%. So that's up. Yeah, let's do the thingy. Chirp, 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 chirp. Bing, bing. Okay. Turn that off. Go here. Oh, we got a couple of super chats retaining oneness. Retaining oneness. Zora Mamdani on the I've Had It podcast. Gold. Also, Graham Plattner for U.S. Senate in Maine. Jealous of Maine. Also jealous of his voice. Manliest voice I ever heard. Yeah, he's a veteran and an oyster farmer, and he's polling way ahead of Susan Collins. Susan, I have my concerns. Collins, who, whatever. She's an absolute rubber stamp who pretends like she's thoughtful, and she isn't. And attaining one to Super Chats. Check out Howard Lutnick's sons running Cantor Fitzgerald. That's one of the groups doing the big buy-ups of those futures. Buying up all the receipts on those possible refunds. Pennies on the dollar. I believe they started back in May. It's a really, really wise investment, especially if you got a dad who's an insider on all that, who's like, oh yeah, all this is going to get wiped out by the Supreme Court. Yeah, just the crime. Insider trading seems to be what everything does. Everything's insider bullshit. I mean, even the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift betting pool on Polymarket looks like there was an insider trade, because the day before the announcement was made, someone invested like millions of dollars in the bet that the announcement of their engagement would happen the day before it happened. So, like, way to go, Travis Kelce. way to make a bunch of money off of announcing your own engagement. That's my thought. But that's the way it is. Monkey butt, anything to add over there? Just gonna lick your hoo-ha? All right. Okay, Mia first. Polestar. So yeah, if Biden had a press conference like that, it would be world news. Trump was a rambling nonsense. That's all he can do. I mean, did you guys see the video yesterday of somebody in the sitting room of the Lincoln bedroom tossing shit out the window? Right, it's filmed from a restaurant, a hotel, basically across the street, and Trump was asked about it. He's like, it's got to be AI. It's got to be fake. He shows him the video, and then people are like, oh, it's construction. What construction job ever involves throwing things out a window and not into a chute? Especially at a historical building, right? that has international significance. Like, I'm just going to chuck stuff out the window here. Trump then said the windows can't open, which we all are, after 9/11, apparently they did seal all the windows. But that video does not have the telltales of AI. If it is, it's really, 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 really good. So why are they tossing shit out the window? One of the things does kind of look like a statue of Lincoln. I'll be honest. And this is grainy, but looks Statue of Lincoln-esque. Very shady all around. Very weird. Very weird. Although no one's asked the president yet about JD Vance's plans to usurp him. So someone in the press pool needs to ask him that. Like, hey, are you aware JD is going to usurp you? And have JD go at the same time. No, I'm not. No. Yeah. JD to Siberia. Polestar Epstein files being forgotten about. The Senate had closed door hearings with victims of Epstein today. I'm not sure what we're going to hear out of that because it's closed door, so it's not open to the public and press wasn't there. It'll be interesting to see what comes from that. I feel like I have a hair just like trying to stab me in the face right now. Sometimes you get these like old man eyebrow hairs and they just come out of nowhere and they're just there. Second puberty, man. And Polestar reverse repo hit record lows. At least record lows since COVID. Reverse repo is down to $21 billion after being over $2.2 trillion back in 2022, 2023. Most folks on the economic side are like, this is not a sign of an economy getting healthy. This is a sign of an economy running out of liquidity. That the whole reason why they put all that cash in there was they didn't want the money after COVID to be dumped in everything and causing even higher inflation, right? So they wanted to sort of throttle back how much money could be spent in the economy. So they did this reverse repo thing where the banks took their money and they weren't lending it out. They would just give it to the bank overnight, the federal bank overnight, and then they would get returns on that. And they could just sit there and it would be a way of keeping them from spending that money to keep liquidity low in the markets. Well, since then, we've had a lot of bad news. Home delinquencies going up. Delinquencies on commercial mortgages going through the roof. They're all-time highs. Delinquencies on commercial mortgage-backed securities are higher than they ever were during the global financial crisis. Almost a full percentage higher. They're 11.7% of all commercial mortgage-backed securities are delinquent. That's 1 in 9. Greater than 1 in 9 of those things are delinquent. So these banks who lent that money are not getting paid for it. And what's happening is they're being forced by the borrowers to renegotiate the terms of these loans. Now, if you already are in delinquency, it is against the law to renegotiate. So they're trying to get ahead of some of these guys and do this renegotiating. So that 11.7%, that stuff is toast. Like, the banks it's illegal for them to renegotiate those loans. But if they see others might be like, I'm going to walk away from this, they may start trying to be like, oh, we'll make it a 50-year bond rather than a 5-year bond. Well, then they start negotiating because what's happening is that this is them sort of delaying realized losses. Their depositors' money is gone. It's been spent on that building. And they spent $300 million on that building, gave a 5-year bond to the building owner, and that building owner doesn't want to pay on it because interest rate doesn't make any sense. The building's worth 30% what it was. They don't want it. So you can try to renegotiate all day long, and they still don't have the renters to keep that building full. They don't have the income to pay the interest on it, and they definitely don't have the money for the balloon payment, and they can't get refinanced because they owe $300 million in the building. They can only get $100 million for it. Therefore, the bank can't be like, oh, we're going to give you another 5-year bond. You just pay off the old one and we go from there. They can't do it. It's not there. So all that depositors' money is gone. Plus, you've got all of the depositors who have been priced out of living, right? We now have folks doing, buy now, pay later on burritos. Their bank accounts are dry. they can't afford their rent, they can't afford their car payments, they can't afford their car insurance, they can't afford gasoline, they can't afford their kids' clothes, they can't afford school supplies, they can't afford food, they can't afford anything, they can't afford trips. So their bank accounts are dry, which means they don't actually have the cash in the accounts that represents all of those holdings, all of those bonds the banks invested in. The money's just gone. So they are drawing down on reverse repo because they need the cash to stay alive. And when that sucker hits zero, basically liquidity is gone. So it'll be really interesting to see sort of what happens when it hits zero. We've been at zero before. We were basically zero for a very, very, very long time. But there was ample liquidity in the economy, and that liquidity just isn't there anymore. And the only way we're going to get liquidity at this point is by cutting rates drastically, which won't do anyone any good in an inflationary environment, or just printing a bunch of cash, which doesn't do anyone good, especially since the US dollar's already lost 10.7% on the year. It's the worst performing year of the US dollar since we've been measuring the value of the US dollar against other currencies. Basically since 86, when we started doing those Forex measurements. If you look at the price of gold in Europe really hasn't changed that much. The price of Bitcoin in Europe really hasn't changed that much. But the price of Bitcoin and the price of gold in the US has gone through the roof because the value of our dollar is just that much smaller right now. So, here we sit. Here we sit wondering what the hell's going to happen with that reverse repo when it goes to zero. Bacon 6333. What doing, BBYQ? Any idea what may be hold up with Knowles and Waterfall? Seems like a few more chin strokes are in order before we see checkmate based on our final decree date, the 17th. I don't know. I mean, the plan made it very clear that reemergence can happen while they're still doing all these clawbacks and everything. It still just come back up. So I don't know. It feels to me like if you're going to do a reverse merger of this to capture the Knowles, you can do it at any time. You don't have to worry about paying the bondholders cash because you can just give the bondholders shares. So just do that. Just give everybody shares. Boom, they're made whole. You now have control of the Knowles, and you go from there. I don't know what they're waiting for. I honestly don't know. You got me, man. So, don't know. I can't be more open than that. Polestar, hey, what are these 7 wars he prevented? Yeah, he keeps claiming that he ended 7 wars, and no one can figure out what those wars are that he ended. I know he claims he ended the war between India and Pakistan, but that wasn't really a war. It was more like drop some bombs here, retaliate with some bombs there. Everyone went, which is what they've been doing for 80 years. He didn't end the war in Gaza. He didn't end the war in Ukraine. I don't know. What wars is it Trump claiming ended? Okay. It used to be 6 wars, now 7. So he says he ended the Israel and Iran war, but he mediated a ceasefire, a 12-day conflict. Okay. India and Pakistan, Cambodia and Thailand. The Trump administration credited him with pushing these countries toward a ceasefire. Okay. Congo and Rwanda. But that didn't really involve the warlords who were actually doing the fighting. Serbia and Kosovo, which have not been at war. Egypt and Ethiopia. There's a diplomatic dispute over the Great Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, but not a military conflict, so that's not there. Armenia and Azerbaijan. Trump claimed that he ended that war, but that treaty was signed last year under Biden. So no, he hasn't really ended any wars at the moment. At best, there have been some skirmishes, but not really any actual wars. Meanwhile, Gaza and Ukraine are still just people dying everywhere, and those are actual wars. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 right there that he's claiming. All right. There you go. Okay. There you have it. Get a read. Happy birthday, HW. Anyone see Trump's unhinged tweet saying the world will soon understand nothing can stop what is coming? Yeah, crash, you moron. Yeah, and it's a QAnon, like, Photoshop AI thingy where he's like, oh, there's like a Q plus coming out of his hand. Absolute bibbity. Kelly, the markets are starting to realize the insane level of debt Western countries have amassed in recent years. This appears less tariff related and more related to how much our spending is out of whack. I'm very curious to see what happens with Japanese carry trades if the U.S. does in fact cut interest rates. Because the only thing keeping those interest rates, keeping those carry trades from flopping right now, and they really, really want to, because the yen is getting stronger, interest rates in Japan are getting higher, is the fact that the U.S. is still paying out a bunch of money on bonds. So if they cut that money, then everyone's underwater on those things, and they got to close them out. So I don't know. I'm very curious that. But yeah, there's a lot of debt in Western countries. And there doesn't need to be all that debt in Western countries. And the U.S. has way more than pretty much anyone else per capita, just absolutely insane levels. And it just doesn't need to be that way, but yet we made it that way. We choose to use contractors to charge too much money to do things that could be streamlined easily by government agencies. We don't make rich people pay their fair share. We have a military that is very expensive. I mean, you take all the military personnel out of the military, right? All 1.5 million soldiers or whatever, full-time civilians, and take all those folks, all the people out of the military, you still have a $950 billion military budget. So you remove every human from the actual military, and you still have a military budget which is more than the budgets of any other country on Earth total for everything they do. So like the French don't spend as much on their entire government as we do on our military, minus the actual people in the military. So those are the things that make us very expensive. We also don't do a very good job of maintaining the control of resources on our federal lands. We don't have a national oil company, a national mineral company, and that stuff. What we do is we sell off leases for very cheap, right? You want to drill some oil, go to a lease auction, you pay, I don't know, $7,000 and you get a lease for a plot where you can drill a well, potentially make millions or billions. You want minerals? Well, for $155 a year, you can get 20 acres and all the rights to the minerals under the ground there. And we don't take anything except for like the corporate taxes out of what you dig, even though it belongs to the people. So we have a very poor job of managing the wealth of the resources in this country. And we could do things. We could have easily in 2020 created a national oil company. Like we got Trump now, he's purchasing 10% of Intel. He's talking about buying other companies. In 2020, we could have bought the whole entire ExxonMobil for about $10 billion. The entire company. This is a company that makes $450 billion a year. Could have bought the entire thing for $10 billion, had ourselves an Aramco, right? Every school in America could become a palace as the result of having a national oil company like that. But no. We're going to collect 15% of everything that NVIDIA and AMD sells to our enemies. And that's how we're going to get around. I mean, they're doing other inefficient, dumbass shit. Like, they're taking U.S. Space Command. They're moving it from Colorado, which is where all of our apparatus and infrastructure is for monitoring things in outer space and monitoring things like ICBMs. The stuff that Space Force is supposed to do. And they're going to move it to Alabama. Why? Because Alabama's a red state. That's why. That's the entire reason. The reason why Biden put U.S. Space Command in Colorado is because all the infrastructure was there. Now remember, if Russia launches an ICBM, North Korea launches ICBM, Iran launches ICBM, etc., we have 24 to 30 minutes from when they launch to when a city gets vaporized. So what you need is you need a very streamlined system, vertically integrated, very quick, not much delay in communication, to where, oh my God, there's a launch, calculate the trajectory, get the warnings out to the media and the public, right? You might have 10 minutes at best in a really streamlined system to know if your city is about to get blown off the face of the earth. Plus the response from the government. Okay, we can launch whatever interceptors we have to take that stuff out. You do not want any delays on that, and it's going to take years to build the infrastructure in Alabama, which means the United States is going to be vulnerable probably for most, if not all of that time. So like, and the entire reason of the movement is because, it's red state. Red state, make some sort of deal, like shake hand. You get that deal now, and put the rest of America at risk, national security wise. And it's going to cost billions of dollars to build the infrastructure. Where you have it in place, it's stupid. It's all very silly. Attaining oneness, national oil companies sound like a commie, DEI, woke, liberal snowflake idea. How we lick the boots of oligarch corporations run over us. There's like theocracies and kleptocracies and gerontocracies and monarchies and dictatorships, and we seem to be like squishing that all into one. I don't know what you'd call it, Trumpocracy at this point. I don't know. Owning the libs by controlling the means of production, I guess, is where we're going. Okay. Polestar, stock market lows, tariffs. We're pulling. What does your intuition tell you about when we should hear major news with Bed Bath? 30th. Right, monkey? Right, buddy? Yeah. Oh, the happy dog. Oh, were you outside? Were you outside running around the sunshine? Were you? Was that a good time? Good time to be had? Might as well enjoy it. We have like a month left, and then the rains will come. And it'll be miserable and gross and gray and rainy and cold. And oh, you little sweet dog. Come on up. Come on. There we go. There we go. Yes, I had everybody. Okay. Gotta read. Reverse repo hit an all-time low, 21 billion. Treasury yield spikes on prospects of U.S. having to refund tariff money. 30-year hits 4.98%. And you know what? They're still not going to get any bidders at the auctions for that. And can I read? The market is starting to realize insane level of debt. Oh, we did that one. Did we do that one? Did I somehow skip that? Yeah. Goodreads says we're going to be close to a swift reckoning. The issue is we won't be alone in this. Buckle up. Arr. Arr. And we're pulling. Can Overstock get the butterfly QSIP through some legal loophole? If so, how could you see that played out? I don't think they can get the butterfly QSIP unless they do a merger acquisition with DK Butterfly. That's the only way the QSIP lives on, is if there's some sort of merger and the folks who have the shares in DK Butterfly receive shares of something else, so that the liabilities from that QSIP goes into that something else. That's the only way to do it, right? Right, little fat man? Right? Oh, you're just happy to rub your face on things, aren't you? Yes, you are. So if Overstock wants to, pay off all the creditors, class 6 and beyond, they can get that QSIP, and they just have to give, BYON shares or BBBY shares to the DK Butterfly people, right? Right? You've heard this. You know this. You know this, you little kitty cat. Oh shoot, Lupulin, you just vanished on me again here. I gotta scroll back up to where you may perhaps be. They read Lupulin. What's your thought on Overstock Beyond and their relationship with Ryan Cohen? Do you think they're in it secretly together? I mean, they run in the same circles, right? They know each other. Marcus is like, no, not at all. But, that's the type of thing he would say before he actually did it, because that's the type of thing he does. I do think, and this is speculation, if you're going to do it, if you're going to go crazy, you're going to go hog wild, you're going to absolutely blow up this market, you got to go overboard. You take multiple companies, you put them all in the same little Keiretsu butterfly transaction, whatever you want to call it, and you start having them share warehouses in logistics. So they create their own little logistics, basically, company out of it. You cover broad markets, entertainment, video games, homewares, pets, etc. You start to get a big old consolidation of that field, and then everybody gets shares in everybody else, and you go from there. That seems to me the best way to do it, because now you've just taken whatever brand there is and you've exploded it into something else, into something big. And you've forced a squeeze on a stock, and you've given the shareholders a whole bunch of cash that they'll spend on that stock as well, causing a secondary squeeze, which will cause a gamma squeeze, which will just explode. And you'll be able to raise as much capital in that moment as you could ever hope to do, and it would be very incredible. So for me, there's no reason not to go overboard and include 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different companies and brands in on this thing. Does Ryan Cohen have the balls and the vision to have done that? I don't know. There's a lot of speculation, and all the magical talk has come from people who aren't Ryan Cohen, who have nothing to do with any of this. And we can speculate and we can, think about, it wouldn't be awesome if he did this. But if he never actually does it, then we're ascribing powers and intelligence to him and fortitude that he may not necessarily possess. So, we may be just putting him up on this pedestal only to be have our image of him destroyed. So in Ryan's best interest, it is for him to do something wild and crazy like that. Because if he doesn't, he won't live up to the hype that we've made out of him. And that alone right there is enough to destroy a whole bunch of the confidence the investors have in him. So he's got to do something wild and crazy. He has to. He has to go out there and do the thing we want him to do. Otherwise, what's the point? He knows all about this stuff. He reads all the DD. He's on Reddit. He's everywhere. He sees it. He reads Twitter. He knows exactly what we're saying because we tag him on all these things. He knows it. So he knows that he will be a giant letdown if he does not accomplish something absolutely insane out of this. He's already a billionaire. He's got his life. He's set. He doesn't have to worry about anything. He's a huge stockholder in Apple. He can, do the private jets and the luxury yachts and the NBA courtside seats and the Panthers boxes. And he can do all that stuff for the rest of his life and never touch the principle of his money. I think his drive should be and needs to be legendary status. Is he going to be the legend everyone wants him to be? Or is he going to be an also ran, normal boomer investor that doesn't do anything cool with it? It's cool, all right, awesome. I got my 25% return after 10 years of sitting around waiting. We need something more than that. We need something bigger and badder and meaner and more killdozery than anything. So, yeah. So there you go. Polestar, thoughts on loop ring coin randomly jumping? Wonder if my poop loops will ever recover. 10 quarterly reports worth. I don't know what the hell happened to loop ring. They're all like, hey, we got all these deals. We're closing our wallet. We're disappearing forever. And then it just jumps again because they might have other deals going on. I don't know, man. I never invested in loop ring the coin, but I did get the wallet because they were generating level 2, and then I couldn't use the level 2 for anything because no one else connected to it. And it was like, all right. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're doing something cool. Maybe not. Wax and Candles GME options chain doesn't look too bad next couple of weeks. Some 23 in the monies this week and loads out towards October 17th. Good job. Good job. 4ZZ9. Well, with Marcus Lemonis ringing the bell, do you think we still have hope? Yeah, I mean, the ticker, who cares a shit about the ticker? Because whatever company DK Butterfly becomes a part of is not going to be BBBY. Or maybe it is, but you're going to get shares in whatever the acquirer is. And I do have some inkling that Lemonis and Bed Bath and all that could be related to DK Butterfly and anyone else as part of this thing. But we won't know until something happens. So I think at the moment we're back to thumb twirling and not quite chin stroking at the moment. Just twiddling them thumbs once more. Mr. E-Meat, how do we know that Trump asked Governor Greg Abbott for 5 more seats? Didn't they have some sort of thing? All right. Trump asked Abbott for 5 more seats. Trump says we are entitled to 5 more seats in Texas. Donald Trump, it's time to call Greg Abbott. Okay. Trump and redistricting, we're entitled to 5 more seats. Trump says GP entitled to 5 more seats. So Trump says he deserves it. This is back at the beginning of August, which was after the whole thing started. So let's see anything earlier than that. Governor Abbott was reluctant to do congressional districting, and then Trump got involved. So this is from the Texas Tribune back in July. So Trump is the one who asked for it. Yeah, that's how we know. Okay, so there you go. Zio Maga, do with Nub, posted on your Reddit. Haven't posted in a long time. Oh, I should go check it out. I didn't check Reddit today, so I need to go do that. Frozen Productions, BB had a show today. Well, there you go. He's doing shows again. I don't see that post anymore. I'll have to send me the link, Zio Maga, do with Nub, because sometimes if you have low karma, it just poof gets vanished. MSQD6PC, happy birthday, H. XRP Ripple thoughts, good play, criminals. I get asked about Ripple constantly, at least once a week for the last however many years I've been doing the show. And I say the same thing about Ripple. It was designed to be a bank-to-bank transfer protocol, meaning it's not supposed to have high volatility, meaning if you're investing in it, it's not going to explode to $1,000 a coin. A, there's way too many of them. B, you don't want to be a bank who did an international transaction to suddenly discover that you either A, did the transaction and now that money's worthless, or B, did the transaction and you discover that whoever did the transaction with is now way richer than you were if you just kept those coins. So it's designed to be as stable as possible. So where's Ripple right now? XRP price. XRP Ripple price. So XRP is at $2.85. So that's, it's up from where it was earlier today. Shall we go? Oops, that's Google Earth. We don't want Google Earth. We want, oh, God dang it. Google Earth. Turn off. Chrome. That's what I want. Bam. 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 Okay. So if we look, see the timeline down here at the bottom, right? From here to there, right? The price, if you invested in Ripple in 2018, you have exactly as much money now. So it got a big old jump back at the end of last year, mainly because it looks like they're winning their lawsuit that the SEC had done against them. So you got this jump where it went from like 30 cents back up to around $2, but it's basically been there the entire time. It's not going to fly to $1,000 or anything like that. It might get incorporated and be used for payment transactions, but those payment transactions just are not, they're not going to make it worth a bunch of money. You want to keep it as stable as possible because no one wants to go buy a beer paying Ripple to discover that they just spent $1,000 on a beer. You don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be my friend Jim Nichols, who got in $1 billion motorcycle accident because he sold some of his Apple stock in like 1981 and bought a Ducati and immediately just almost destroyed his leg with it. So if you're seeing it as an investment and it's trying to actually be a currency, then don't treat it as an investment. Treat it as a currency. That's my opinion on the whole XRP Ripple thing. The price in 2018 is the same as it is today, and that's after 9 months of it being like, yeah, we're strong again. It's just a new plateau at this point, is my opinion on Ripple. Okay. Oh, phew. I went there. I thought I didn't turn off the intro, but I did. Whew. All right. Zuma got to do with Nub Super Chats. New CFO from today's interview is the PwC hitman that sank Hertz and almost Pepsi Best Buy. Company doesn't have the cash to renovate 300 stores and purchase merchandise. Lemonists eat shit. Uh-oh. So they took on probably a Boston consulting dude to be the CFO. I find it interesting when folks who were the C-level executives of multiple companies that went under find themselves as a C-level suite executive of another company once again. It seems like you only get that job if your job is to destroy everything, right? Like the head of marketing at AMC. Head of marketing at AMC was the head of marketing at Radio Shack, at Blockbuster, at Washington Mutual. 3 companies that ceased to be, right? Why would you hire that guy to be your head of marketing? Right? Like, seems like a real dumb idea. 10-1 is 20-point swing in Iowa State Senate seat. Previous Trump plus 11. Same amount swing in Penn Senate seat, Senate or House seat. Anything Trump plus 19 could swing Dem come midterms. Time will tell. That is why they're trying desperately to redistrict. The funny thing is that they redistricted in Texas, right, to get rid of those 5 Democratic seats, and they made 11 swing seats as a result. That all, if these trends in Iowa and Pennsylvania are holding true, could make those all Democratic seats. So they could have gone from like 9 Democratic seats to 11 or 12 as the result of their districting in California. So pretty silly, right, dude? Pretty silly. The best little scratchy ears, don't you? Yeah. Okay. And skirt 2. Love the show, man. Do you think Pulte has anything to do with GME or BBY old shares? I wouldn't doubt if he has GameStop. I do know he made a purchase of BBBY bonds. I have no idea if he still has them or not. Some folks saying he sold them all back when they peaked a couple months ago. I have no idea. I have no verification of that. You have to report on those bankrupt things, so no clue. What I think Pulte is trying to do, and I think his goal has been the entire time, is to take over running Pulte Homes. I think he sees it as his. His grandfather started it. I think he sees it as a family business, and he should be involved. And I think his involvement with the meme stocks and GameStop and BBBY and all of his Twitter charity work where he sends money to people who need it, right? I think all of that was an attempt to build a retail investor army who would help him proxy fight and take over the board at Pulte Homes. I think that's his entire goal. And by doing donations to Trump and getting this pretty powerful seat at FHFA, this gives him more gravitas so that when he does want to take over the entire company, he will have the backing of some very rich and powerful Republicans and a whole bunch of retail investors who bought into it. The whole Pulte event was uncomfortable from the get-go. Like, I seriously thought it was gonna be like a Pulte Homes Christmas party. We're gonna go like hang out and eat cocktail shrimp. I wasn't expecting this whole like televised theatrical rally thing. That was weird. But the most telling part of it was when he offered everybody a share in Pulte Homes. And much of the time, Pulte Homes trading like $100 a share or something. It's like, hey, everybody, I'm going to give you all a share of Pulte Homes. Just sign this contract. And I looked at the contract and I was like, absolutely not. Like $100 Not worth it to me to deal with whatever bullshit is in this contract. Basically, you sign away your rights to vote on those shares. You give it to Pulte. Pulte has the rights to do whatever he wants to those shares. And if I remember correctly, I wish I'd taken the contract. I wish I'd taken a copy of it so I could have it. But if I remember correctly, you basically, if you bought more Pulte home than just that one share, he still had the voting rights on it. So it was a way for him to accumulate way more voting rights outside of his initial investment, what he could actually afford, and utilize the sort of hive mind of investors, of retail investors, to sort of begin that proxy fight. I get to vote for you, blah, blah, blah. It's a weird, I don't like it. It gave me the willies, and seemed like weird underhanded stuff, and so that's why I was like, nope, I'm done. I do think he's buddies with Ryan Cohen. They've gone to New York together. They go to Panthers games together. They are buddies. I'm not sure how good of buddies they are, but they're buddies. I do think he's got bonds. I do think he's got GME shares. So, but beyond that, I don't know. I don't know if it's because he actually believes in those companies or if it's just his way of getting an army together of retail investors. That's I lean more towards that he's sort of using his friendship with Ryan Cohen to get the folks he needs to do a proxy fight to take over Pulte Homes again. Okay, where am I? Oh, another super chat. Shoot, skirt. You look like you had to take a shit at the PB event. Please have a look at BCG Teddy AI. I had to pee really bad. I had to pee so bad. I was about to explode. I was like 5 bottles of water in because it was that or Coors Light, and I'm not a Coors. I don't drink. And I was literally going to go stand in the line at the porta potty when I got grabbed by a security dude who's like, "No, you can't go. You're up on stage now." I'm like, what? And then I had to go sit on stage and just hold it for hours. I mean, it was painful how bad I had to pee. And then when I did finally take a whiz, I should have done a stopwatch because I swear it was more than 2 minutes. Like I had an out of body experience on that whiz. I went to the outhouse, I whipped it out, I started going, and it felt so good. It felt fake. Like, you know how there's that wise saying that if you're having a dream and you see a toilet, don't use it. It felt fake to me. It felt like I was in a dream sequence and I was just pissing the bed. It was just like, well, here we are in this dreamland, and there it goes. I was like worried that I wasn't real. It was so relieving. and like, it just kept going and going. I swear I lost 20 pounds on that pee. Like, it was insane. But man, should have been there for that monkey. It was pretty incredible. Yeah. So that was like, there's like sweat coming down my head after that one. It was needed like a cigarette. All right, Daniel Motes. Hey, you some GME options player for the next 2 weeks? I am playing options for next week. I'm probably not going to buy until Thursday or Friday. Hopefully, the price settles out a little bit, so implied volatility drops once more. I'll probably buy a whole bunch for about $1.50 to $2 out of the money. Basically, as many as I can get with what cash I have in my account. If the price is like what it was last Friday, I could probably get, I don't know, maybe 100 of them. If the implied volatility goes up, it might only be like 10. But I'm going to shoot for that because I think they're going to have a really good earnings, a good enough earnings that it could pop the price a couple of dollars, put all those things in the money. I could probably 10x my investment, and then, right? So that's what I'm hoping for. And then I would buy a whole bunch of puts because Ryan will do something to dilute another, 0% cash for equity. I don't know, whatever, and it'll go right back down. So that's the play I'm going to go for. Once bitten, twice shy. Twice bitten, 3 times shy. I don't know. Murphy Turf. Big H, have you seen Mars Express? It's a French anime cyberpunk noir movie and it rocks. A really awesome and terrifying look into a possible future. I have never heard of Mars Express, so no? What's it? Is it streaming on something? Or is it in the theaters? Yeah. Yogi, solid state or tube amp? I have both. I have a gigantic L4 tube amp. It's a 4x15 with a fender cabinet. And that thing is very, very loud. Like, if I crank that sucker as high as it goes, it would shake this house apart. I also have a little Fender solid state amp that does fine. That's the one that sits in my bedroom. The one thing about the tube amps is that they get very hot and they can like turn off. So I remember using it back in the day. When I was in high school, I started a concert series called No More School Palooza that was held on the last day of school. We'd have like 30 bands come and play. And the first year, I set my big amp up because it was way bigger and badder than anybody else's. And I was like, you guys can just use this rather than having to swap amps all the time. So anyone who's playing bass or whatever, just pop on this sucker. And after like 10 hours, actually it wasn't even that long. After like 4 or 5 hours of playing, it just stopped making sound because the tubes heated up so much that nothing was coming out at that point. So they do have limitations. My stereo in the living room is this modern Samsung stereo that's a tube amplifier. It was pretty cool. Came in this whole set, and that thing's very powerful. Also, there is a richness in tube amplifiers, but if you have a really good solid state setup, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So, it's a put enough distortion and everything anyway. You really can't tell what you're looking for. Yeah, so play what you like and what you can afford. That's what you should do, and have fun doing it. Caddy. My lizard brain has discovered these things called books. Any recommendation for a good historical fiction novel? Oh, so many. I would do. I'm really big on like historical sports fiction. Like you go back to 1940s or something and you follow a fictitious baseball player. There's this dude there we go. John Tunis. He has a whole bunch of like really cool sports books. They're probably catered more towards young adult, but they're really well written and they give you kind of an insight into like the mind of, say, a baseball player. So this High Pockets is about sort of this like guy who's probably takes place in the 1930s, be my guess. He's the dude who wrote the book that Hoosiers became a movie of. In all of his books are like to us are sort of in a period, and so it's very very much of that period. So I recommend these books. They're really good. He's got dozens of them, and High Pockets was probably the first one I read. It's the one that stuck with me the most, and sort of gave you like an idea of I don't know, sort of the place of skill versus sacrifice, teammates, all those things. They're really good. I recommend these. If I have anything else that's in this same context. Science books. I don't have all my library in here today. A lot of it's upstairs. Cat, quit pun. It's all nonfiction. That's all biographies. Those are all sports. That's more sports biographies. Those are political books. Those are nonfiction, nonfiction, nonfiction. Man. Not too much actually in here. So nothing's really popping in my brain at the moment. Cat. Equipping a monster. Do you need drugs? Do you need a fix? You're actually covered in it right now. Oh, what'd you do? You idiot. What you it's gone. What'd you do with it? Is it down on the floor? Oh, it's on the floor. Ah, that's what you did, you little drug addict. One sec. Come on. Okay. There's drugs everywhere. Yeah, dude, it's right there. It's all right there in a big giant pile, and your nose is blowing it all over the place. So just suck it in. What was I talking about? Books. Man. I need to get... I have a bunch of books in storage still. And a bunch in the upstairs library. I need one giant room so that I can look at it and then be triggered. But... you know, a lot of the sort of historical fiction people think of aren't necessarily the best. Like, people think about, like, was it Cold Mountain? They made that movie with Jewel. That Jewel chick was in it. It wasn't particularly good because it wasn't very accurate. There's a lot of things that, like, little things in that book where you're like, well, that actually didn't exist in 1860, or people were doing that 50 years earlier, but not by that time. And my dad kind of pointed a lot of that stuff out and kind of ruined that book for me. And then you have, like, your classics that you read in 6th grade, like Johnny Tremaine and whatnot. I think you can go back and read contemporary fiction of an era, and that will be just as good. You know, you can go back and read a detective noir from the 40s, and that's like reading historical fiction today, because it's fiction then, it's in a time period, it's with those particular skills and abilities and whatnot. You can go back and you can read, you know, your Moby Dicks, which is read an abridged version of Moby Dick, because the long version is just so long-winded. Yeah. What's the super chat? To anyone, this Seahawks going down Sunday. 53% of tickets sold were for red and gold. I honestly don't know how the Seahawks are going to perform. Not a clue in the world. They've lost some really potent offensive folks. I don't know what Sam Darnold's going to be like as a number one with the Seahawks offense we have. This cat is such a spaz. You are such a spaz, you nerply little freak. We'll see where it goes, I guess. I mean, Tyler Lockett rules. He was one of my favorite Seahawks of all time. And Seahawks just didn't tender up a contract. And then they got rid of Geno. Geno, very, very prolific. Terrible decision-making in the red zone. Way too many interceptions. But I don't know if Darnold's going to have the same impact there. I don't think we have the running game we need, because I don't think we have the offensive line we need. So, yeah, Seahawks might go down. You might be right. It might be a very big rebuilding effort by the Seahawks on this point. So, we got no DK Metcalf anymore. So we got Jackson Smith and I can never say his right. Enigma. And I mean, he's a wizard, but you know, we'll see what Sam has in store for everybody. Right, buddy? This cat. Okay. Did that one. Billcoin DOC, best historical fiction I've ever read. America, Land of the Free, fictional story of a country where freedom is their number one priority. I've never heard of it. So, America, Land of the Free. Huh. Interesting. Luminous Reflections. Hi, Houston. Thank you for all you do. Luminous sent a letter to T0 board requesting removal of CEO and cites BBB is T0's largest equity holder. Thoughts? Any tie to GME Cohen Butterfly? I hope there is. Luminous has some weird things with T0. So T0 launches. I joined. I have some T0 shares and whatnot. But then like a month ago, he's like, hey, T0 needs to be spun off. We need to put it on the New York Stock Exchange. And I was like, that's stupid, because the entire point of T0 existing is to remove stocks from these highly manipulated markets, right? These exchanges, and put them onto a blockchain exchange where they can't be manipulated. So why would you take the stock of the company that's trying to keep manipulation from happening and put it into a manipulative setting? It seems to defeat the entire purpose of T0. That's dumb. That's some dumb thinking, in my opinion. Marcus Luminous does a lot of dumb things, and that's one of the dumb things. So maybe the CEO of T0 is like, that's stupid, and that's why he wants to get rid of him. Global Walnut, is Venezuela an oil play? What's the plan there? Venezuela has basically the largest untapped reserves in the world. The problem is that it's really, really, really dirty oil. And it takes a very special, expensive process to make it useful oil. Really, really sulfur rich, more so than any other oil on the planet. But there's more of it than anybody. Venezuela was producing hundreds of billions of dollars a year in oil, but Chavez Maduro kind of destroyed all that 2014 on by firing people based upon loyalty. It's kind of what Trump does. You weren't loyal to me, you're gone. And we'll put somebody else in there. They fired all of the engineers, all of the roughnecks, all of the folks who maintained the pipelines because they wouldn't pledge their loyalty to Maduro, and they put people who don't know what they're doing involved. And so oil production in Venezuela has dropped by, 75-80% since 2014. And the country has lost 25% of their entire population as a result because no one has any money, they don't have food, and things are really bad. So, if you can get rid of Maduro and you can modernize the oil infrastructure inside of Venezuela, you have a smaller population that will have a really, really, really high per capita GDP as a result. And so those folks will probably, if you're a dictator who can make people rich, people will put up with that dictator better than they will with a dictator where everyone's dirt poor, right? So I think the idea is you get some sort of Trumpian guy in charge of Venezuela and he'll magically turn it into a rich oil state once again. The problem is that I don't think anyone who would jibe with Trump would be able to maintain such a system because he would still do the whole loyalty thing and you just run into all those problems once more. So we'll see where it goes, but first time caller, weekend at Donnie's. Rosemoon, hi, been a minute. Hey Rosemoon, how's it going? Kayla Reed, it's pretty hilarious how GDP metrics can be gamed so easily in so many ways. At some point, people need to realize that GDP doesn't really measure anything useful as a metric for the actual health of the economy. It's the most classic case of Goodhart's law. When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. I mean, yeah, it's a measure, but it's not the measure. You can talk about how rich the United States is, how many $1 trillion the economy is, but and you can look at the average, the mean across all these demographics, but that doesn't actually tell you the full story of how skewed it is. The average household in America has a net worth of $1,069,000. That means the average of all of us is $1 million. That's not necessarily true because the median, if you take the entire population, you go to the exact middle, where the middle is, the median net worth is $90,000, which is a new truck. That's the value of the average American family, or the median American family is a new truck. The reason why it's skewed to $1 million is because of how many people, how much the people have at the very far end of it. So, you know, put me and Bill Gates in a room, our average net worth is $50 billion, right? So that's what's happening. You remove Mark Zuckerberg from the equation for the net worth of millennials, and the net worth of millennials drops by like 20%. That's how much Mark Zuckerberg alone skews the demographics for millennials. A lot of folks, if you remove the value of their house, right, they have almost nothing. So the average $1 million homeowner, you remove the $1 million home from the equation, they have less than $100,000 in net worth. Meaning they don't have the cash on hand. All they have is this big block of a house that's the majority of their net worth. So, you know, people talk about like all these millionaires across the country. Most of those folks are boomers who outside of the value of their house don't have anything. And that's where we are. They don't have the cash. They might have a little bit of Social Security, if they're lucky, some pension, but most of it is a giant house that they will not be able to sell for what they hope to later in the near future. The upcoming generations don't have the families to fill those houses. They don't have the income to buy those houses. So, you know, at best, hopefully they got somebody they can leave it to, because I don't know what else is going to happen there. Oh, shoot. It's 4:36. I got to get going. If I missed your chats, I apologize. We'll be doing a show at some point tomorrow. It's my friend's birthday, so we're doing a barbecue in the evening. I don't know when I'm going to do a show. We'll find out. Stay tuned, and we'll find out then, all right? Fat Cat, anything to add, you drugged up little hippie? Huh? Okay. Let's clickety-clack. Wink. Let's start prairie guys. Chew me? All right. Okay, everybody. Bye-bye.